Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's training session, Unlock the Power of Peer Review, a Scholarship Without Borders training. I am Lina Safa, the manager at the Center for Global Partnerships and Learning at Pepperdine GSEP, and I'm delighted to be here with all of you today and to see such interest in this vital aspect of academic scholarship. At the Center for Global Partnerships and Learning, we aim to foster a global exchange of knowledge and ideas, encouraging scholars worldwide to engage with each other, share their work, and contribute to academic communities that cross boundaries and borders. The Scholarship Without Borders Journal is actually one of our key initiatives to promote this exchange, providing a platform for scholarly communication and collaboration. Today, we will focus on a critical aspect of scholarly publishing, the peer review part. So peer review is more than a step in the publication process. It's vital to ensuring that the scholarly work is credible, ethical, and impactful. And before we begin, I would like to introduce my esteemed colleague, Reverend Dr. Charlotta Green, who is a respected scholar and invaluable partner in today's training. Charlotta is an ordained elder in the United Methodist Church, a member of the International Coaching Federation. She holds a Doctor of Philosophy degree in Global Leadership and Change from the Graduate School of Education and Psychology, Pepperdine University. Dr. Green has over 10 years as an educational instructor and researcher, 20 years of ministry experience, and 15 years of administrative and international leadership experience. She is a scholar, educator, pastor, bridge builder in the community, and a global leader. Dr. Green has put together the slides for us today for this session so that we can guide you through the nuances of peer review as contributors and reviewers, and ensuring you leave today with practical insights to enhance your role in scholarly publishing. And now let me walk you quickly through the agenda so you know what to expect today. In part one, Dr. Green will walk us through the timeline of the peer review process, explaining how long each phase typically takes, according to the timeline of the publishing as well, and what you can expect along the way as peer reviewers. And part two, we will explore the peer review workflow, showing how manuscripts move from submission to publication and beyond. We will also dive into the detailed guidelines in part three. Peer reviewers must follow to provide meaningful and constructive feedback. And after this, I will take the floor again to guide you through the peer reviewer form and the specific questions peer reviewers need to answer when reviewing a manuscript. And without further delay, let me pass it on to Dr. Green, who will walk us through the heart of today's session. Dr. Green, over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Safa. It's good to be with you. Hello, colleagues and friends. How you doing out there? It's 6 o'clock on your end. It's 9 o'clock on the East Coast. So we'll get started. So let's talk about the timeline. So we publish twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall. And those dates may change just depending, but generally the timeline will look like this. In spring 2025, we'll accept submissions and reviewer training. So that we're doing that in the fall as well, but this is what the spring looks like. April, we have, accept submissions, peer review, edits, make publication decisions. And then May 2025, we publish. We've already published volume one, and then we have like 3 or 4 issues in that, and now we're on volume 2. Then we'll do summers, and so we'll accept submissions for a publication for the fall, and we'll have those reviewed, and then in the fall, we'll see what comes up, and then there will be a publication in the fall, and so then we'll have the next issue. And so that's kind of the flow. Like there's always going to be, we're always accepting submissions. We're always reviewing, but we have these 2 really clear deadlines around publication. So that's just kind of and that is subject to change because we're under new leadership. And so we will just follow the flow, however it works for the new leaders in place. Next slide, please. So, to decide to be a peer reviewer is not an easy task. It is a big job. And so we want to thank you for your interest in doing so. And so what happens is that once you go through training, and you submit your email addresses to us, we will upload your email addresses into the Digital Commons portal. And then we will begin making assignments. And so what happens is you'll get assigned a paper, and then you'll get a notification that comes from the Digital Commons. It's a pretty standard flow of information. It'll be from Dr. Safa. And it'll, read, similarly, it'll say dear and your name, and we're asking you to edit, to review this document. And we'll give you clear guidelines. And within that email, you'll have a link to some things that we'll talk about a little bit later. You have the right to accept or reject based on what's going on in your world, and that will not be held against you. We know you're busy, so just keep in mind that's what we're doing. So you'll log into your account, the Digital Commons Pepperdine.edu account. You'll look at your dashboard. Again, accept or decline. You will not be assigned more than 3 articles in a semester. We understand that you're students or that you are professors and working, so we want to honor your time as well. So the articles will go through at least 3 reviews, so you will have all have at least 2 chances to review depending on the number of submissions we receive. And you must give feedback and return to the author through the portal. Now, keep in mind, this is a blind peer review. So you do not know whose paper article you are reviewing, and they do not know who you are. So it's double blind. You don't know them, they don't know you. And that's the way we'd like to keep it. So if in the event, because sometimes this happens, you get a submission and a request and it has a name on it, please respond back to Dr. Safa immediately so that we can, yes, it eliminates bias. So that we can correct that. We will not send you that same paper back. We will then assign you something else. But please, we try to make sure that we catch all of those things, but sometimes things slip through. So just for our sake, if you get something that has somebody's name on it, or it alerts you that you'll know who it is, please just let us know so that we can correct that immediately. So what I want you to know is that if you then somehow decide that you want to submit an article as an author, we do not then use you as a peer reviewer at that time. We have space within the portal that allows us to know whether you're an author or a peer reviewer or both. And so we will be paying attention to that closely. That allows us to maintain the integrity of our publication, because with anything that goes on, you can't audit your own books. You can't review a journal that you're a part of. So just want you to know that. So the next thing is we want you to understand that the feedback you give must be respectful, constructive, and honest. Just like with anything, when authors are submitting things, these are really personal to authors. And so just keep in mind when you get feedback from professors, how it feels when sometimes it's kind of hard. So keep that in mind when you're giving your feedback. Make sure that it is not personal, that it is about the article, that it is constructive in the sense that it's helping to, number one, highlight the challenges around the research, something around APA, something around grammar, or those things, but don't make it personal. And I'll give you an example just so that you're clear. I had one article that came through, and the reviewer saw a term that is used differently based on where it's being used in culture and in geographic locations. And so for the person that was reviewing, it seemed derogatory, but for the person that was writing, from a both academic perspective and then that personal lens that they were using in that academic perspective, it was not. And so keep in mind that you may run into those types of concerns, and that's okay. That's what the managing editor and the rest of the editorial board is there for. So if there are those kinds of concerns, we'll take care of them. Make your things known. But just keep in mind that authors don't always have to take your advice just because you've offered it. It is appropriate and recommended that you discuss the article's strengths and weaknesses and suggest ways to improve that submission as you're evaluating that particular article. Look at its originality. Have you seen this before? Does it pique your curiosity? And those are things authors need to know, and it's helpful. Pepperdine University and its affiliates will not be held liable, and I will read this to you because it is very clear, for any associated damages resulting from your review. You further confirm that you have contributed directly to the intellectual content of your review. So that is one of the things that is very clear about Pepperdine's rules and guidelines, and want you to take that into consideration. Additionally, you accept that the editorial board of Scholarship Without Borders Journal may opt not to use some or all of your reviews in deciding to either accept or reject the manuscript in which you have reviewed. The editorial board has the final say. You can go to the next one. So it's important to know that even though you may review an article, authors always have the option of withdrawing their article. That's not personal, don't have anything to do with you. They don't know who you are, but there may be some reason why they don't have time to go back and make the corrections, or they may have changed focus or whatever. So keep that in mind as well. The final decision of every submission continues to be with the editorial board, and it's up to their complete discretion. So we will not deal with all the other things around, consequential, special, or exemplary damages that arise out of or in connection with access or use of, or an inability to access or use your review. So again, we have your review, and that review will go to the author. Again, we thank you for your time. But again, that at the end of the day, those final kind of decisions are up to us. So we value what peer reviewers do. And here's the reason why. Peer reviews offer us insight and wisdom based on your expertise, based on what you understand, what you know, and how then you as a peer of these authors are engaging with their material. That is helpful. It allows you to strengthen your skills and being able to assess, to look at, to understand, to read through and glean information from journals and journal articles. It strengthens your ability to have a critical eye and have good questions around what research is doing and how it's going. Keep in mind that we are not a journal that's focused on one particular branch of knowledge. So you can write about just about anything that you would write about in the EDD, the PhD, or the master's programs around research. So we're not geared just toward education or just toward psychology. It's not just, this one thing, as opposed to, journals that only look at science or natural sciences or social sciences or education in a particular field. So we're pretty wide open. We don't expect you to be experts. What we're inviting you to do is to invite to help us think through how to kind of look at this article and how we make it better. You can go to the next one. So please, please, please do not use defamatory language. And I'm laughing because you wouldn't think that you'd have to say this, but we do. Please watch how you state things. Be clear, but watch the way in which you do it. In statements that are inflamed, in statements that may be taken the wrong way, just make sure that when you are answering the questions that we ask of you as part of the review, that you're respectful. Again, sometimes it may be something that you completely disagree with. You don't have to agree or disagree. Question, is this research solid? Is it supported? Is it something that can move forward? What are the questions around, whether the resources and the references are right? Or what are your questions around how to broaden, this, but, don't make it personal. So again, you will get this in writing as well, because it's important for you to keep up with this information. You must be aware that you will be held fully responsible for any damages caused if a third-party material is included in your review or any information that infringes existing copyright or third-party intellectual property rights. So that means if you use somebody else's information in your review, that's going to be problematic. Don't do that. This really is us asking you as a reviewer, as an up-and-coming scholar, to give that kind of feedback without all the other things. Again, it's important to you can say to people, it might be helpful to run this through Grammarly once more. It may be helpful to, seek some help from the writing center if these things aren't clear. But please don't use other people's information or other thoughts from other spaces in your review. Again, we want to make sure that there are no conflicts between copyright, property rights, intellectual rights. And so we'll just make sure that we're honest in keeping those things open. And if there's any dispute on your behalf that exists or may be perceived to exist, connect it with your review. Again, we will work through that and we'll find a way to figure that out as the editorial board. We will do that work. It's not your space to do that work. We will pay attention. We will get back to you. We will ask questions. That's our work to do. Your task is to read the article, give it good attention, and give good, solid feedback. Next slide. I know there are questions in the chat and we'll get to those. So it's important to know that because we are a new journal, we've only been in existence for 3 years. So yay us, we've been moving forward. And in that time, we have now a DOI, and that is really important because we now can be found on the World Wide Web from various different places. The reason why this is important to you as a reviewer, not just as an author, but when you tell someone on your resume that you have been a peer reviewer, you then can take the DOI from our journal, put it in your resume as part of what you've done, so that then whoever is reviewing your resume can take a look at the journal that you've been a part of. Does that make sense? Again, I don't want to read all of this to you because you can read it yourself, and we'll make sure that you have this information. But that's the key and important part about DOI for you as a peer reviewer. So we also have an ISSN, International Standard Series number, which identifies continuing resources irrespective of their medium. And so you can find our journal in the midst of everything else that's on the web, because we do have that ISSN number. It identifies our publication, and it's electronic. And then I've put this there for more information. So it's always important that you understand what you are engaged with. So knowing what the ISSN number is, knowing what our DOI is, helps you in the long run, again, as you are utilizing this on your resume, in your ability to kind of promote what the work that you've done. This gives you all the things that you need to know. Now, from the author standpoint, it's the same exact thing. Again, when you put on your resume your publications, you then can link directly to the article that you've written with using that DOI link on your resume in your CV. So those are the things that are important about that. Next slide. So it's important for me to say to you, if you have not been accustomed to reading journals, it may be helpful to look at some other journals that are online that are reputable. And so this website right here gives you some of the predatorial ones that you want to stay away from, because it may look good and it may sound good, but it may not be something that's reputable. Generally speaking, you can spend a lot of time on the web looking for journals, and again, you'll have these links, but it may not be something that's reputable in the science world and the academic world altogether. So for us, one of the places that I tell people to spend some time is look at Sage Publications. Use JSTOR when you're wanting to read things that, number one, that are attached to universities, because you cannot get to JSTOR unless you have an EDU or a university setting that you are attached to use them as your link into. It's that's one of those paywall kind of things. You can sign up for JSTOR, but then you must pay for it if you are not attached to a university setting. These are credible spaces to spend some time, again, looking at journal articles, looking at how they're written, looking at how they flow. Again, ours will be different because the whole goal of SWBJ is that we want our students at Pepperdine to have an opportunity to publish and have publication behind their names before they graduate, because there'll be lots of places where they're going to tell you no. We're going to keep saying to you not yet and help you with writing and doing a better job with that writing. In the same way with the peer review, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to give you these opportunities to strengthen your skills so that these are marketable things that you can use once you graduate. And I'm going to turn this back over to Lena.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Green. Thank you for your insightful presentation. So now that we understand what peer review entails and its role in academic publishing, we can dive into the specific elements that reviewers need to consider when conducting a review. And this is actually about the peer reviewer form. The form that I will present to you has 20 key questions that each peer reviewer volunteers to peer review, to do the review or to serve as a reviewer at the Scholarship Without Borders Journal will be able to download that form set ready for them and to address these 20 key questions. So I would really like to briefly go through these questions, since the reviewer should really carefully address them to ensure the quality of the manuscript under review. So these questions are very helpful. They're designed to guide you through the critical aspects of the research paper, so you don't have to really think, what aspect should I concentrate on or should I highlight? That is really a guideline for you and it helps you provide constructive and meaningful feedback. So, for example, in question one, here we're looking for any language issues that might hinder clarity or professionalism. Grammar matters. So if you notice errors, no matter how small, mention them with specific examples. Ambiguity as well can confuse readers and reduce the impact of the research. Ask yourself if the idea is presented in a straightforward way. And if you yourself, if you don't find it, or if you find it hard to understand, so will the readers. The abstract also, it's a snapshot of the entire paper. It should concisely convey what the paper is about and why it matters. So if the abstract is lacking key details, do suggest how the author could strengthen this. The research problem, a strong research paper also has a well-defined problem, and we all know that as scholars, so supported by relevant studies as well. If the problem is unclear in the paper or the supporting studies are weak, offer suggestions for the author to improve. The methodology should be detailed enough for others to replicate the study. If parts of the methodology, are vague or missing, point them out. It's also critical to know who the study is about and whether the sampling process was fair and transparent. If biases exist but are not acknowledged, that's something to address in your review as well. Um, Validity and reliability. So valid and reliable research, we know that ensures that the findings can be trusted. If these aspects are glossed over, provide feedback on how to bolster these sections. Replication is at the heart of science. So if the methodology is not detailed enough for another research to replicate, this needs to be mentioned as well. Good research does not just present data, right? It analyzes it thoroughly or thoughtfully. So if the data analysis feels weak or unclear, suggest ways the author can strengthen their interpretation of this data. Research also must be grounded in existing literature. So if the findings are not well supported, well grounded, or if key sources are missing, highlight that as well. Visual aids in the paper. Visual aids can make complex data easier to digest. That's in principle, but they need to be well organized and relevant in order to do so. So if they are confusing or unhelpful, please recommend changes to the author. The reference list is crucial for situating the research within the broader academic field. Please make sure that the citations under the reference list follow the APA's 7th edition guidelines and are current and relevant as well. Strong research builds on a foundation of existing knowledge. So if the author has ignored important theoretical frameworks unintentionally, please suggest some keywords they should consider in that term. Also, a well-rounded conclusion addresses not only the results, but also the limitations of the study and potential areas for future research. In terms of the contribution of the study to the field, so every paper should make a clear contribution to its field, reflect on the value of the research. Is it new? Is it innovative? Or does it add something meaningful to the conversation? Please touch on this as well. This is your chance actually to give specific feedback for improvement. So whether it's restructuring parts of the paper or clarifying certain sections. What are some things the author could do to strengthen the work? So offer constructive criticism. What can the author do better? Focus on solutions that will improve the quality of the paper. It is just as important to highlight strength as it is to critique weaknesses in the paper. So please make sure to acknowledge what the author has done well in the paper. Finally, assess how well the paper aligns with the research questions posed in the paper at the beginning. Does it stay on topic and provide meaningful insights? So if you address these questions, 20 questions, you will have a thorough framework for conducting a meaningful peer review. And as a peer reviewer myself, from my experience, I would say it also helps you conduct a meaningful and publishing paper for yourself down the road, not only serving as a peer reviewer. So it really strengthen your publication and your scholar research skills, which goes beyond peer reviewing. But that's a great point, starting point. So yeah.
No, I just want to add that sometimes you'll get a literature review, which is a little different than a full research paper.
Correct.
So I just want people to be aware that, you know, what Dr. Safa is saying is important and clear, and please pay attention. But if you get a literature review, then what you're going to do is look at that from a different lens. There may not be a multiplicity or even one particular research question. They may be looking at this literature for some other reason than, you know, us kind of having a clear stated, this is my research problem or question, and this is what I'm trying to answer. And so when you're reviewing that, some of these questions may not get answered, and that's okay. I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Green. So all this really ensures that not only the manuscript is well vetted back to the peer review process, but also that the author receives valuable, and this is the main goal of the peer review process, right? So the author receives valuable, constructive feedback that will help improve their work and your work down the road. So now I'll open the floor for any questions you may have. We've got around, I don't know, around 5 minutes, maybe we're running out of time, but we do have some time for Q&A. So feel free to ask about anything we've covered or share your thoughts. But I would like first to address one question in the chat I promised to address at the end. Will you touch briefly later on how we can submit to the journal or provide the site where we can do so? We are going to provide the site, right, Dr. Green? But in terms
Yeah.
of how to submit to the journal, please stay on the lookout for an upcoming workshop, another one, as to how to submit to the journal, whether to the Scholarship Without Borders journal or to other scholarly journals as well. Really, that is, we wanted to preserve this training specifically for the peer review process per se, but in terms of submitting to scholarly journals, including the Scholarship Without Borders, of course, we will have another workshop to address how to successfully submit to a journal. Yes, Giselle, please.
Hello, professors. Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking us as part of this opportunity. I'm a new returning student on my first semester. I am in the MFT program, not necessarily the research program, but I am very interested in research. I just don't know how well I will be able to write. So I'm searching for opportunities to learn, potentially develop my own style and just learn in the process. So when I found out about this opportunity, I just jumped at it. One other thing that I was looking into was to gain experience with research was to apply as a research assistant to some students who are pursuing their doctorate degrees here at Pepperdine. And I did hear back from one of them. I understand that Dr. Green, I think it was Dr. Green who said earlier that we wouldn't be able to review and author at the same time. But if I am a reviewer and I have a chance to assist in someone else's research, would there be a conflict of interest?
So, as a general rule, because we want to maintain integrity, you could come off the list as a reviewer and then be added on as an author, because multiple people can write one paper. So and so yes, but please make sure that you are letting Dr. Safa know that before you make those kinds of changes, because we do need to make sure that we're clear about where you are, whether you're an author or a reviewer, just to maintain the integrity. I know that there are questions about submitting, and we will do another workshop on submission. But my suggestion to you is get real good at reading the directions, all of them. Because one of the things that happens even with peer reviewers is people don't read everything all the way through, and then they have these questions, and it's like, if you read and follow each of the steps in order, it's generally more helpful than like kind of skimming and thinking that you can then jump right in. So please make sure that you read the full email that you get, that you go through the link, that you familiarize yourself with those questions that we give the peer reviewers, because that's important. And then set that aside and just read the paper without like trying to make any notes or anything. Read the paper. And then I promise you, by the time you go back through with those questions, because you spent time reading it, it will go easy, it will go quicker, and it'll be easier to review and less stress on you. And you may not have to, feel free to reach out to us, because that's what we're here for, to support you. But you may not have to reach out to us as much. So hopefully that answered some of your questions. We got some more in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have Wendy. Is this considered the full training for peer reviewers? If so, what happens next?
Yeah.
Yes, Wendy. Actually, so I know when it comes to peer reviewing, the process is there's just so much that we can cover in one session. However, we are going to provide the recording and the slides afterwards. And we're going to share the link also. I'm gonna share the link now, Charlotta. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. You have it, right?
Yeah. So,
Okay. So that the link that Dr. Safa is putting in is to the Digital Commons. Familiarize yourself with that, and then you can create your account. What would be helpful tonight is that if after this training you want us to consider you for peer reviewing, put the email address that you want us to use, because that is the one that we will put in the system to begin sending submissions to you. If you put that in the chat for all of us, then we have Dr. Safa has a way of then linking all of those to the portal and then helping you navigate setting up your account so that then you begin getting the information.
thank you so much.
So with the question about the Pepperdine email, so if you've transitioned over to the alum email, that's fine. But once I think the spring starts, for those of us that have graduated, we may not have an email address anymore. So if you're not using your Pepperdine account, put the one that you are using the most that you'll get your email in. So if it's a personal email, that's fine.
Okay, so that is can you see the website for the Scholarship Without Borders Journal? So you can really navigate these icons here where you submit an article, where you can just and once you actually volunteer to be a peer reviewer, you will get invitation from me as the managing editor. So you would really you will have to respond. I would really appreciate it if you respond within the timeline provided in the email as to whether to accept to be a peer reviewer for that paper invited to review or not, so that you can give us the chance to send the invite to another peer reviewer if you are busy. So there's no requirements over there. Nothing is no obligations, but just if kindly you can just once you volunteer as a peer reviewer, if you could just respond to that email in a timely manner, that really simplifies the process. Are there any other questions that we did not answer in the chat?
So if you're not providing your email tonight, Dr. Safa will put her email. Our emails are at the end of the slideshow. So if you're interested, just make sure that you email her or either one of us, but she's the managing editor. I am just the support as part of the editorial board. So so just make sure that you get these emails and then submit those. Okay, I see them all coming in now. Lena, do you want to save the chat so that you have all of these?
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to copy.
So I'm going to answer this question one more time because it is in the chat. Can you be a reviewer and an author is what you want to put there. So you can do both, but you cannot be both at the same time. It is a conflict of interest to do so. You are not allowed to be a reviewer on the edition that you may be published in. So what happens is we tag you when you want to be an author and you won't receive, don't get upset, you won't receive anything to review until your article is then published, because again, we do not want there to be a conflict of interest. So yes, you may do both, but not at the same time. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like,
okay, perfect. Well, I
Thank
think we are at, if we don't have any more questions, I think we are at
we
time.
have one more. We have one more
Please,
question.
please feel free to address the question.
Can you please clarify the types of articles that are being submitted in terms of methodologies? And so there are a wide range of methodologies. Again, we are not a journal that is focused on a particular space. And so you can do grounded theory if that's what you've got going on. You can do phenomenology. You can do a mixed methods. Whatever the research is that you are doing, you are able then to submit. Say that you're writing a paper for your statistics class, and you want to submit something that you've worked on from there in a new arrangement, a new finding, a new thought process. You can submit that. The methodologies are not necessarily what we're focused on. We're focused on if you understand those methodologies and how you are presenting your research and your information. So we're gonna get a mixed experience of methodologies in this journal, because again, we know that people are coming from various different backgrounds, and we know that you're in different programs within the School of Education and Psychology. And so we want to make sure that we're able to give you the space and the breadth and the depth of that space that you're learning in to also write your journal articles in. And it's less important that you know exactly what that methodology is, as opposed to understanding in the reading that they have at least given you a clear blueprint of their methodology. And anybody reading will know whether that methodology makes sense to them or not. And if there are questions, then, Dr. Safa is there for you to ask questions. This doesn't make sense to me. And here's the reason why. And then that may be helpful in helping us to help you with your review and maybe some of the questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, and I would like also, thank you so much, Dr. Green. And I would like also just to add here, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always happy to schedule one-on-one consulting meeting, research meeting, whether in person on campus or via Zoom, whatever is convenient for you. So please, that is part of my role as the research manager. So I would be happy to guide you through any difficulties or to help you through the process at any time. So I think we're good. And are we good in terms of questions? Does anyone have any other question? Did we not answer any? Do we have any remaining questions to ask? Well, with that, yeah.
Dr. Safa, can I ask you a quick question?
Please.
So I'm a faculty member. Can you, first of all, thank you both for holding this space and for involving students in this process. I think it's an area that a lot of students will enjoy once they're able to be a part of it. Is there, and we can talk offline if that's a better place, but I'm wondering if there's, what about faculty? Is there an opportunity for faculty to be involved? Would peer review be the process for them?
Of course.
I mean, in my program, we probably have 300 faculty members. Mm-hmm. So I'd be really interested to know what the process for them might be, if they would also be interested in participating or contributing in some way.
Of course, Doctor. Well, first, I'm so glad to see you here, Dr. Kirsten. Thank you so much for attending the training. So, of course, that is open for faculty, full-time, whether full-time or part-time, for the alumni family, and for current students. So it is when it comes to peer reviewing and to authoring at the Scholarship Without Borders Journal, it is open to the GSEP community as a whole. So and the process is just the same. There is nothing different when it comes to the faculty, in terms of peer reviewing or submitting. And we've been having many submissions and contributions, scholarly contributions from faculty members that we are grateful for, and they've been doing great. So, I mean, adding and enriching the academic arena. So, yeah, welcome anytime. And I'm always here to also schedule a one-on-one. I think we are going to have a one-on-one, Dr. Dial, so together.
Thank you
Well,
so much.
of course, my pleasure. Thank you for attending, for your time with us tonight, and thank you all for your participation tonight. So peer review really is an essential part of our scholarly ecosystem, and your role as reviewers is critical to ensuring that high quality research gets the recognition it deserves. I hope this session has provided you with a clear understanding of how to approach peer review with a thoughtful and constructive mindset. Please do not hesitate again to reach out if you have any further questions or would like to discuss any topics in more detail. Once again, thank you for attending this training session, and we look forward to seeing you and to see the impact your reviews will have on the Scholarship Without Borders Journal and beyond. And have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you still recording?